from Florida's capital, this is Power Play.
Shockwaves on death row as the U.S. Supreme Court reinstates lethal injections. Business groups fire shots, but the governor still signs guns at work. McCain wins Florida if Obama is the Dems nominee, a new poll says. And, truck nuts could cost you a fine on Florida's highways. All that on Power Play this week with our guests, Dara Kam of the Palm Beach Post and Gary Fineout of the Miami Herald. Welcome. Let's start out with the Supreme Court decision on lethal injections. What's it mean for Florida?
It means that executions could resume as early as 2 months from now. We haven't had an execution since the botched execution of Angel Diaz, which took 33 minutes, much longer than what is normally expected to take for lethal injection. And
what will happen now?
Well, what will happen is that Governor Christ and Attorney General McCollum are going to push forward to start teeing people up. I mean, they've been waiting a while, and at this point in time, there's nobody in the political infrastructure in Florida who plans to put a halt to this, and that they want to go forward and resume executions.
Who's first up, if there is someone in line?
Mark Schwab, the one whose execution was halted in November by the Supreme Court decision, hours before he was scheduled to be executed. He was the child murderer, raped a young boy and is accused of raping and murdering a young boy.
Is it a surprise that despite the opposition of business groups, the governor signs the Guns at Work bill? Gary?
No, I don't think at all. And in fact, I think we're seeing a whole line of issues coming out of the legislature this session that I think are meant to try to, frankly, jazz up the Republican base. They're talking about evolution, they're talking about guns, they're talking about putting a license plate with a cross on it. I think there are some attempts to say, okay, the economy is bad and what have you, but here are some things that we're doing to appeal ourselves to our hardcore Republicans.
It's a red meat Republican issue. The governor's a member of the NRA. It's no surprise that he signed that bill. And the business community had threatened to sue. They hired Barry Richard. They had
Pretty good lawyer.
He's a very good lawyer. In fact, he was involved in the recount and was very successful in his endeavors as representing President Bush. But it was expected that they were going to sue.
Okay. Briefly, we have the Quinnipiac University poll come out this week that says if Barack Obama's the Dems nominee, McCain wins Florida. Perspective?
Well, perspective is Obama hasn't been here. He's not been here. He's not really campaigned here even before the ban went into place. And the plain fact is, with our military, veterans and the retirees in the state, I don't think there's anything that would be surprising to me about McCain being ahead right now.
Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton are extremely popular in South Florida, where half of the votes, half of the registered voters live below the I-4 corridor. She's been popular there. She's held a fundraiser on the night of the Democratic primary down in South Florida. And again, I agree with Gary. There's no surprise that McCain would beat Obama. I think it would be a very close race between McCain and Clinton, though.
Under the category of, do they really have time to do this week, one of the chambers passes a bill through that would cause drivers to have a $60 fine if their trucks are adorned with what can only be called, and are being called, truck nuts. Reaction?
To be honest, I had never even heard of this until they were discussing it on the floor the other day. It seems like, as you say, they spent a considerable amount of time in the Senate debating this. They've got a $5 billion budget deficit. I think that, some observers might be dismayed at the amount of time they're spending on something like truck nuts.
Gary?
Well, like I said, I think it goes back to this other thing. I mean, we're having, the legislature always gets distracted by things. It happens every session. We have one of these crop up. But like I said, I mean, it's probably much easier to spend a half hour talking about that than to listen to the litany of pain that could possibly come along with the budget.
And as we are, it's the most talked about story lately. Okay, power play of the week.
Well, obviously, it's Governor Charlie Crist basically calling the House members out on the carpet and saying, health care is a big issue. It polls incredibly important. We've heard Obama, we've heard Clinton talk about it. I want to pass a health care plan. I want you to pass my health care plan, and I don't think you're doing what the people want you if you don't pass my health care plan. And I think this is, ramping up the rhetoric between him and the House.
He even said House members who don't do it might face an election this fall.
And
Dara?
it should be, is what he said.
Your power play.
I'd say it's Senate Majority Leader Dan Webster, who last night unveiled a plan for the state to lease Alligator Alley back to itself. He wants the Lawton Childs Endowment to lease the toll road, and because he says it's a more secure investment for the endowment than the stock market at this point.
Some Nexus. Dara Kam, Gary Fineout, thank you. Go to the Safety Review for the latest political news, and we'll see you next time on Power Play.